Story 1. The very existence of flamethrowers proves that sometime, somewhere, someone said to themselves, I want to set those people over there on fire, but I'm just not close enough to get the job done. George Carlin. Story 2. Comparison is the thief of joy. Do you remember who you were before the world told you who you should be? You accept the love you think you deserve. Story 3. Anytime I see something screech across a room and latch onto someone's neck, and the guy screams and tries to get it off, I have to laugh because what is that thing? Jack Handy. Story 4. The biggest thing you can give people is your time because it's the only thing in life, the only currency, that you actually never get back. This guy on YouTube said it. Looking at his channel, it seems like he has deleted the video where he said it. Story 5. I'm not religious, but this one is my favorite. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us. It's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Marianne Williamson. Story 6. The reason that the rich were so rich, Vims reasoned, was because they managed to spend less money. Take Boots, for example. He earned $38 a month plus allowances. A really good pair of leather boots cost $50. But an affordable pair of boots, which were sort of okay for a season or two and then leaked like hell when the cardboard gave out, cost about $10. Those were the kind of boots Vims always bought and wore until the soles were so thin that he could tell where he was in Ankh-Morpork on a foggy night by the feel of the cobbles. But the thing was that good boots lasted for years and years. A man who could afford $50 had a pair of boots that would still be keeping his feet dry in 10 years' time, while the poor man who could only afford cheap boots would have spent $100 on boots in the same time and would still have wet feet. This was the Captain Samuel Vims' Boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness. Terry Pratchett, Men-at-Arms. Elves are wonderful. They provoke wonder. Elves are marvelous. They cause marvels. Elves are fantastic. They create fantasies. Elves are glamorous. They project glamour. Elves are enchanting. They weave enchantment. Elves are terrific. They beget terror. The thing about words is that meanings can twist just like a snake, and if you want to find snakes, look for them behind words that have changed their meaning. No one ever said elves are nice. Elves are bad. Terry Pratchett, Lords and Ladies. Story 7. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Maya Angelou. I really live by this. This very rarely led me astray. I do leave room for people to have a bad day or bad moment, but in general, I find that people don't change, and once I see who you are, it's not changing for better or worse. Story 8. Lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. If you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with nonsense. A common mistake that people make when trying to design something completely foolproof is to underestimate the ingenuity of complete fools. Story 9. Time is an illusion, lunchtime doubly so. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Notoriety wasn't as good as fame, but was heaps better than obscurity. Good omens. The first rule of Italian driving, what's behind us is not important. The Gumball Rally. Story 10. I fell in love with her courage, her sincerity, and her flaming self-respect. And it is these things I would believe in, even if the whole world indulged in wild suspicions that she was not all she should be. I love her, and it is the beginning of everything. F. Scott Fitzgerald. Reminds me of my wife. Story 11. So do all who have lived to see such times. But that is not for us to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. Gandalf. Story 12. I am somehow less interested in the weight and convolutions of Einstein's brain than in the near certainty that people of equal talent have lived and died in cotton fields and sweatshops. Stephen Jay Gould. Story 13. Hello, babies. Welcome to Earth. It is hot in the summer and cold in the winter. It is round and wet and crowded. On the outside, babies, you have got 100 years here. There is only one rule that I know of, babies. God damn it, you have got to be kind. I tell you, we are here on Earth to fart around, and do not let anybody tell you different. Kurt Vonnegut. Story 14. I have two. On your left, Steve Rogers in Winter Soldier / Sam Wilson in Endgame. It is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. Albus Dumbledore in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. They both hang in my classroom. Story 15. I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched C-beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die. Story 16. This one is terrible. Whenever I watch television and see those poor starving children all over the world, I cannot help but cry. I mean, I would love to be skinny like that, but not with all those flies and death and stuff. Mariah Carey. Story 17. We all change if you think about it. But that's good. You've got to keep moving as long as you remember the people you used to be. 11th Doctor, Doctor Who. Story 18. Life isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience. A lie spreads around the world, while the truth is still putting its boots on. How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard. Your boos mean nothing. I've seen why you cheer. Story 19. An expert is a person who has found out by his own painful experience all the mistakes that one can make in a very narrow field. Niels Bohr. It's a good way to look at one's failures as a path to success. Story 20. The modern conservative is engaged in one of man's oldest exercises in moral philosophy. That is, the search for a superior moral justification for selfishness. John Kenneth Galbraith. Story 21. If you end up with a boring, miserable life because you listen to your mom, your dad, your teacher, your priest, or some guy on television telling you how to do your things, then you deserve it. Frank Zappa. Story 22. When you put a gun in some kid's hands and send him off to war, you incur an infinite debt to him for what he has done to his soul. From the Kevin Seitz book, The Things They Cannot Say. Story 23. Odd, though, all these dealings of mine with myself. First, I have agreed on a principle with myself, now I am making out a case to myself, and debating my own feelings and intentions with myself. Who is this self, this phantom internal partner, with whom I am entering into all these arrangements? I ask myself. Story 24. That's the thing. I don't think I believe in deep down. I kind of think all you are is just the things that you do. Diane Gwynn, Season 1, Episode 12 of BoJack Horseman. Story 25. While it is always best to believe in oneself, a little help from others can be a great blessing. Several years ago, I loaded a bunch of camping gear onto my bicycle and spent the better part of the next 7 months riding 5,300 miles, or 8,500 kilometers, around the western United States solo. Along my way, every single person I met wanted to be a positive part of my story in whatever way they were able. Many incredibly kind locals opened their homes to me, providing a hot shower, a soft bed, and their wonderful company over a delicious home-cooked dinner. Drivers would see me stopped on the side of a desolate road and pull over to offer an extra bottle of water when I was miles away from the next town. Neighbors in the next campsite over, after seeing me arrive on that monster of a bike, would come over to ask about my travels. I would give them a summary of where I had come from and where I was going, and they would invite me to join them around their fire to exchange their food and beer for my stories. It probably goes without saying that daring to ride a bicycle across much of a continent was the chapter of my life in which I believed in myself more strongly than I ever had before or since. It was also the time I relied most on the help of others, and I truly was blessed to have experienced that. Story 26. Love is like a fart. If you have to force it, it's probably shit. Peter Griffin. Story 27. Comparison is the thief of joy. Theodore Roosevelt. Once I learned about this quote, I have been much happier by not comparing various things to other things. Story 28. I would give my life for a man who was searching for the truth, but I would gladly kill a man who thinks he has found the truth. Luis Buñuel. The biggest problem in the world today is that the stupid people are so sure of themselves while the intelligent folk are so full of doubt. Bertrand Russell. These are from memory, so they may be slightly off. Story 29. Bob Sweeney. There was a moment like this when I used to blame everything and everyone for all the pain and suffering and vile things that happened to me, that I saw happen to my people. Used to blame everybody. Blamed white people, blamed society, blamed God. I didn't get any answers because I was asking the wrong questions. You have to ask the right questions. Derek Vineyard. Like what? Bob Sweeney. Has anything you've done made your life better? Story 30. They grew gaunt and lank under the white suns of those days, and their hollow, burned-out eyes were like those of sleepwalkers surprised by daylight. Crouched under their hats, they seemed like fugitives on some grander scale, like beings for whom the sun hungered. Even the judge grew silent and speculative. He spoke of purging oneself of those things that lay claim to a man, but that body receiving his remarks counted themselves well done with any claims at all. They rode on, and the wind drove the fine gray dust before them, and they rode an army of gray-bearded men, gray horses. The mountains to the north lay sunwise in corrugated folds, and the days were cool and the nights were cold. They sat about the fire, each in his round of darkness, while the idiot watched from his cage at the edge of the light. The judge cracked with the back of an axe the shin bone on an antelope, and the hot marrow dripped smoking on the stones. They watched him. The subject was war. The good book says that he that lives by the sword shall perish by the sword, said the black. The judge smiled, his face shining with grease. What right man would have it any other way? He said. The good book does indeed count war and evil, said Irving. Yet there's many a bloody tale of war inside it. It makes no difference what men think of war, said the judge. What interest? As well ask men what they think of stone. War was always here. Before man was, war waited for him. The ultimate trade awaiting its ultimate practitioner. That is the way it was and will be. That way and not some other way. He turned to Brown, from whom he'd heard some whispered slur or demur. Ah, Davy, he said, it's your own trade we honor here. Why not rather take a small bow? Let each acknowledge each. My trade. Certainly. What is my trade? War. War is your trade. Is it not? And it ain't yours? Mine too. Very much so. What about all them notebooks and bones and stuff? All other trades are contained in that of war. Is that why war endures? No. It endures because young men love it and old men love it in them. Those that fought, those that did not. That's your notion. The judge smiled. Men are born for games. Nothing else. Every child knows that play is nobler than work. He knows too that the worth or merit of a game is not inherent in the game itself, but rather in the value of that which is put at hazard. Games of chance require a wager to have meaning at all. Games of sport involve the skill and strength of the opponents, and the humiliation of defeat and the pride of victory are in themselves sufficient stake because they inhere in the worth of the principles and define them. But trial of chance or trial of worth, all games aspire to the condition of war, for here that which is wagered swallows up game, player, all. Suppose two men at cards with nothing to wager save their lives. Who has not heard such a tale? A turn of the card. The whole universe for such a player has labored clanking to this moment, which will tell if he is to die at that man's hand or that man at his. What more certain validation of a man's worth could there be? This enhancement of the game to its ultimate state admits no argument concerning the notion of fate. The selection of one man over another is a preference absolute and irrevocable, and it is a dull man indeed who could reckon so profound a decision without agency or significance either one. In such games as have for their stake the annihilation of the defeated, the decisions are quite clear. This man holding this particular arrangement of cards in his hand is thereby removed from existence. This is the nature of war, whose stake is at once the game and the authority and the justification. Seen so, war is the truest form of divination. It is the testing of one's will and the will of another within that larger will which, because it binds them, is therefore forced to select. War is the ultimate game because war is at last a forcing of the unity of existence. War is God. Brown studied the judge. You're crazy, Holden. Crazy at last. The judge smiled. Story 31. These fools are everywhere, restrained by emotions and morals. They deserve to be stupidly manipulated by rules. What's sadder is that when they see others not being restrained, they would jump out and criticize, trying to impart these morals to the people, not allowing others to have more freedom than them. In this process, they would even enjoy this ridiculous moral superiority and bliss. These people, they had a body full of abilities, and some even had higher cultivation than him, but for what? They are just pawns, merely restrained dogs. What truly stalls a person's success is not talent, but mindset. Any organization, once a person is born, would impart their morals and rules, constantly brainwashing. Those that want to surpass humanity's achievements have to break this restraint on their mindset. Sadly, most people are trapped by this their entire lives, using this to move forward with motivation and even use their chain collar as a symbol of pride. Fong Yuan on Societies, Chapter 127. Humans are like isolated islands, floating in the sea of fate. Human encounters are like the collision of these lonely islands, and once they touch, there would be an effect. Sometimes, the islands would stick together in the name of interest, kinship, friendship, love, and hate. But eventually, they would separate, walking towards the path of destruction. This is the truth behind life. Fong Yuan about Loneliness, Chapter 131. Humans only live for 100 years. It is as unreal as a dream that ends in an instant. What is the point of a person living in this world? No more than just being on a journey and witnessing interesting things. Although I do not want to die, I do not fear death. I am already on my right path. I have no regrets even if I die. Fong Yuan Clearing by Ning Bing's Confusion about the Meaning of Life, Chapter 169. Man, no matter which world they live in, all lives to conquer. Conquer the enemy, conquer themselves. Fong Yuan after slaughtering multiple rank Forgu masters and conquering the battlefield, Chapter 542.